Hey guys, welcome back to my workbench. Dan here, and we're coming right after the extensive Aurora miniatures boxcar review. These are fabulous models. I really like them personally. What I don't like is the coupler issue. There's too much bounce and play in the coupler, and they don't align properly in the height gauge. And this is one of the worst cases of coupler wobble I've seen. The Intermountain Autoracks actually have a similar issue, where the long shank couplers are kind of bouncing around in that wide open pocket. On a boxcar like this, or really any car in general, it can cause derailments, misaligned couplings. I've had a lot of issues with misaligned couplers, especially coupling to double shelf tank cars, for example. I've caused some binding, some derailments and things like that, coupling of cars like these to those. So what I'm trying to say is it can cause a multitude of problems, and it needs to be addressed properly. And for those of you like me who are concerned about this issue and want to rectify it, I'm going to go ahead and make this video for you guys to see how I'm actually going to fix this. Now we're going to try two methods here. One, on this car, we're going to swap the couplers out with KDs, in this case KD Longshanks, and we're going to see if that actually improves it or tightens that up a little bit. In worst case scenario, we'll try method two, which is going to be using shims. Styrene shims are nothing new, and it's something that we've all been using in this hobby for many years to realign couplers on rolling stock that need addressed. It's super easy to do. All you need is some basic styrene sheet, a little bit of glue, a hobby knife, and a pair of tweezers or needle nose pliers to do this. But if we'll need to do that, we'll show you guys how to do that in this video too. Let's jump right into this. Here's the coupler box. I'm looking at this, and I would assume what we're going to need to do is probably take the coupler lift bar off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a pair of tweezers. I'm going to see if I can lift up on that. The reason I'm using tweezers is in case I have to cut it, and in this case, yeah, it's glued in place, so we are going to have to unfortunately cut this. Okay, I guess I'll use these then. I'll try to do. I'm going to do, come in there, nip it. There we go, and now we can move that out of the way. The pivoting air hose, that should not be a problem. Let's go ahead and unscrew the box here. I did just notice this little guy fell out. That's okay. Just means it's out of the way now. Really wish I had my tweezers, but they're currently out in the model railroad room, so this will have to do. Very carefully we'll remove that coupler. I've modified a pair of long shank KDs for this. These are the scale size knuckle couplers, so they have all the nice detailing. So these are like the proto couplers basically. That's what I'm going to be using for this, and simple. All we'll do, come back in here. Let's see if first off they'll fit properly, which yes they will. You can use a regular sized KD, by the way, if you want to. That'll fit fine in there as well. But I'm going to be using the long shank. Most of the time when I see these cars rolling in operation anyways, the couplers are usually partially extended out anyways. Oops. So I like having that extra bit of slack in the coupler anyway with that long shank, if that makes sense. And this is the tricky part. Keep in mind also I'm working with a camera in my face, so bear with me here, but we'll get it done. There we go. And now let's screw that back on. I have a feeling we might still need to shim this, but let's see what it's doing. Let's see what she's doing. That's definitely too tight. Okay. Back that off a little bit. Just enough to where it allows the coupler to swivel freely. Very minute adjustment. And, as predicted, we fixed the issue. Notice? There's no swivel, or no up and down movement, not swivel. And it looks very nice. Much more prototypical too. So, we've essentially addressed that issue now. And it looks a lot better too. It's swiveling properly, so that's a good sign. So that's one way to do it, and of course I'll check this on the KD height gauge and just double check, but I'm pretty sure we got it aligned. It's pretty much dead straight in that box, unlike the stock coupler. But if you guys do not want to switch the couplers, the next method I'll demonstrate for this video is shimming the stock coupler. So let's give that a try. So, shims, generally I use 0.005 inch styrene. This is paper thin styrene. When I say paper thin, probably about the thickness of construction type paper. Pretty thin stuff here. But this is ideal for doing these kinds of shims because they provide just a minute adjustment. Now, looking at the inside of the box, what I can see is I'm going to probably need to shim this from both parts, and I've actually taken the coupler box off again to access the interior bit, so I can actually glue a little shim right inside the coupler box. And this also allows me to move the coupler out of the way again, and the part that we're going to have to add another shim to align the coupler is this centerpiece here. So this is where we're going to need to attach our shim pieces. Alright, moving on to the styrene here, you can see I've cut a very small little piece of styrene. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just roughly split this in half, and I'm going to see, let me see, in terms of width, yeah, it looks right. Okay, what I'm doing is I just cut these guys, and I'm going to go ahead and trim this one down just a little bit more so it fits properly inside this piece here. I've taken a little bit of CA glue, and I'm going to use an applicator to apply it to that top portion of the, or rather the strip here. I'm going to take my piece of styrene. I'm going to set it right on top there. I'm going to align it roughly into its final position here. And then to really make sure it stays in place, I'm going to use a little bit of plastic weld. Come in there. We're going to bead that glue on the inside to fuse that plastic in there. Their final adjustment. If we can get it here. There we go. On the coupler box lid, notice how I've glued that strip on. Just like that. And this should align this coupler properly. Put the coupler in the box. Again. Carefully bring the coupler box over. And we'll just, oopsie, if I can get the damn thing in place here. And again, we just need to loosen it just enough where it allows the coupler to swivel, and we're done. And take a look. Boom. And I'll guarantee you that's dead straight. So that's the shim method. Super easy, that took 5 minutes. Of course, once you're satisfied with the fitment, you've checked everything through your height gauge, just go in there You can paint those little pieces. Actually, I would recommend you paint these little guys before you install the box, but because I'm doing a demonstration, I just went ahead and installed it. But I would paint these little shims first with some yellow. It doesn't have to be the exact matching yellow, but just paint them yellow, and then once you weather everything inside there, and put weathering on this, or if you actually are going to weather it, all that's going to blend in. You don't have to weather it, but that's just what I would do personally. But you can see again now, we have full swivel, and the coupler stays aligned, so it's not sagging up or down. Okay, so we solved the problem now. On the KD equipped end, I tested the coupler and the height gauge, and everything aligned very nicely. On the shim end, again, very satisfied with the results. Everything lined up perfectly. Matter of fact, this was dead on. The KD had a slight bit of play. It was actually slightly high. Very, very slightly, but not enough to completely affect the height. The shimmed coupler actually was the best out of all of these options. It aligned perfectly with the height gauge, and I'm super satisfied with that now. So this car is essentially track ready, and it's ready to move on to, you know, dull coating, weathering, graffiti, and all that good stuff. And there's the fixed coupler, now coupled up to a properly gauged locomotive coupler here. Really appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully this technique, or rather these techniques, are helpful in solving the problem on these cars. And really any model that you might have an issue with this, these techniques can still apply. You can utilize them to fix quite a multitude of coupler height problems.